in life, there are times you need to take small steps of faith to bring big results. Now, the Bible says in 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 3, go borrow vessels from everywhere, from all your neighbors, empty vessels. Do not gather just a few. So these were instructions that Prophet Elisha is giving a widower. And the instructions were very simple. Go borrow from your neighbors and don't gather few. She was supposed to gather as much as she could. And the widow's situation seems very hopeless. She was in debts, deep debts. And the creditors were coming to take even her two sons as slaves. Now she's crying out to the prophet Elisha, who did not just give her money, but instead asked, what do you have in your house? In verse 2 of chapter 4. And the woman only had small jar of oil. That was what she was seeing with her eyes. But God was seeing enough to bless her through the small jar she was seeing. And Elisha's instructions were so unusual. She was telling her to borrow as many empty jars as possible, to pour into her little oil into them. You know, this act required a lot of faith, because for this kind of situation to happen, you need to have faith and to obey, because it seems so difficult to happen. Yet she obeyed. The oil kept flowing until every jar was full. And she even ran out of jars. The oil continued flowing to the jars that she had. And when the jars were no more, the oil stopped flowing. She was then able to sell the oil as according to the Bible, and she was able to pay the people that she owed money, and also being able to provide for her family. I want to encourage you today that God can use anything or what you have just to bless you. The widow thought she had nothing, but God used the little she had to perform a miracle. My question for you today, what do you have? Do you have your skills? Do you have resources? Do you have connections that God can use for your breakthrough? You know, obedience activates miracles. The miracle did not just happen when Elisha spoke, but when the widow obeyed. Sometimes God's instructions may seem very strange or very strange or small, but that kind act of obedience is the key to unlock His provision in your life. Faith requires actions. She had to take the first step of faith to go and borrow the jars, despite of the name she was being called out there. If she had hesitated or borrowed like 2 jars, she could have limited her blessings. So don't be afraid to take bold steps of faith, even when you don't see the full picture of what is about to happen. And God's provision is as big as your faith. If your level of faith is small, that is what God is going to do in your life. You know, the oil only stopped when there were no more jars. Take a picture. If she had more jars, she could have more of the oil. The more vessels she gathered, the more oil she could have received. My question to you today: how much are you preparing for God's blessings? Are you limiting Him with small expectations in your life? Or what are those small expectations? Are you limiting God with them? Even when you feel like you have little, always remember that God can multiply it. Take a step of faith, trusting in God's provision, and just watch Him turn your scarcity into abundance. Your small act of obedience today could be the key to your breakthrough tomorrow.